always remember, every one of us, inside each of us, the reason that we're in this room, each of us is unique. Each of us is really, really special. We have something to give. We may not know what it is right now. I'm not sure what it is every day, but we have something to bring to the table, something to give. And just remember that about yourself. You're here because you are special, okay? And that's great. Look, the economy it's in the crapper. There's places that are really busy. There's work out there. Find your voice, be confident in who you are and what you do, get in touch with why you're special, and hopefully, shine a light on that for people. Let them see it. Normally, if I do a presentation like this, I'm, click, 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 going through and showing stuff. And I like the idea that this is going to be just a lot more conversational. And so that's what I'm hoping we'll have today. And there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about. First of all, how many folks in the audience are students right now? What do we got for students? Okay, cool. How many are designers? Photographers? Art directors? Okay. Copywriters? Yeah, okay, so good. All right, just wanted to kind of get a sense of that. I'm going to try and blow through a quick background on myself, and we'll just sort of get that out of the way. I was born in 1949, Beaverdale, which is a suburb of Des Moines, Iowa. Then I grew up there. It was really a Opie Taylor kind of an experience. Moved to the big city of Omaha when I was like 13, went to school there, started at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I was destined not to be a Rhodes Scholar. Real quick aside, so I'm taking this communication speech class at the University of Nebraska, and it's in these little Quonset huts, and it's on campus, but they're small, and there's probably 20, 25 people in the class. So I'm doing a demonstration speech, and I decided to do it on shotgun shell reloading. So, imagine trying to do that now. Anyway, so I'm showing people, here's gunpowder, and if you light it, here's what happens, and it doesn't explode, it just burns, and that was all well and good. Well, then I loaded a gun and fired it with just a wad column, not a shot in it. Anyway, I shot a hole in the roof. And what was really bad, like that's bad enough, what was really bad is the woman who was following me was giving a demonstration speech on dog grooming. Well, the dog had never seen a gun, much less heard a gun, and when the gun went off, the dog defecates all over everything, the place is a mess, and the University of Nebraska suggested that I seek education elsewhere, which sort of sent me on a career path to the Colorado Institute of Art. So I end up at CIA, and at that point, now this is the mid-late 60s, this place is basically a rehab facility for all of my buddies coming back from Nam. It was not a great school. But I got through it, and I learned a few things, and I went to school, started work in Denver, worked there for about 4 or 5 years, a couple of different design firms, found my first mentor, we'll talk about that later. Then in '77, I decided I was going to be an illustrator. Because like most of us, we all start out drawing on everything. So I look at Dallas, Houston, Atlanta. I come to Atlanta. I meet a bunch of guys. We're all living over on Crescent Street, working out of those 2 houses, South City Kitchen and the little martini thing next door. The guys that are there, it's Brad Copeland, it's Jim Wise, it's Reagan Wilson, Rick McDonald, David Marks. A whole bunch of us are working out of there. So we're freelancing, trying to survive. Next thing I know, I go to an illustrator's workshop program up in Connecticut, meet a really cool guy up there, a designer named John DeCesar. That's where I learned I really don't want to be an illustrator, I want to be a designer. I love the problem solving. So I came back to Atlanta and I got hooked up with CNN, great experience launching CNN, learned a lot. Left there, went to work for Creative Services, great design firm here in Atlanta. Learned account management. Everything went in the crapper. The guy who ran it, Tom Wood, comes to me and said, look, we're about to go under. You got to go out in the street and go to old clients and try and gin some business. So that's where I developed voice, the ability to be able to talk about the work and talk about what we do. Worked with Tom, hit the ceiling, no place else to go, in terms of equity, that kind of thing. So I took a sabbatical, took off a year, came back, and started a company called EAI. This was 85, 86. We didn't know what we were doing. We had 2 boxes. We had these little SEs. So we bought a Linotronic, didn't know what to do with that, trying to pay for it. We started a service bureau called Station to Station, spun it out. It did really well. Sold that off to my partners, kept EAI, started working with RJR Nabisco, and that's when things started snowballing. And we started doing corporate communications. I started really learning the business, learning about international communications. Anyway, RJR led to Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola led to Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren led to Accenture, yada, yada, yada. So, okay, fast forward. We spun out of EAI, we spun out a technology group called Elemental Interactive, focused on annual reports, shareholder communications online, sold that to Gray in 99, sold EAI in 2003 because I was bored, and I'll come back to that in just a minute. And I kicked back for a while. And came back, got bored, was living down at the farm down in Peachtree City, came back up to the city, bought an old warehouse, and started a nonprofit foundation called the Center for Design Study. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. I did that for a few, got that off the ground, and that was starting to roll. And was doing some work, and then an old dear friend came to me and said, gee, I'd love for you to come work with us. And that was Wade Thompson at Sun & Sons. And so I moved over there and started working over with Wade and the team there about a year ago, I guess now, somewhere in there. And this is really fun. So what's the point of all that? Okay, I got a long career. I got to get notes out, so this is where this thing's going to be. The point is, life's a long time, and so is your career. So look at it in these bites of time. Everybody, young people especially, tend to think that I've got to be here. I need to be doing that. And they put these expectations on themselves. I urge everybody to look at your life and your career in these smaller chunks of time and go and learn from what you can. I've been really fortunate in my career to work with a lot of really bright people. And I've been able to learn from them. Obviously from the shotgun incident, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box. So you get it from someplace. So move around, take those experiences, learn from them. And it's part of the reason why I'm at Sun & Sons. What I love about this place is that it's all about the experience with each other and the experience with the clients. And I had a conversation with a colleague last night who reminded me of something really important. He was talking about, he was asking me about, what are you going to talk about? I go, I really don't know, clearly. So he's, when I look at your career, I think about it in terms of what you're always doing next, the things that you're learning. So it's this idea that what we do is not a pursuit of design, it's a pursuit of what design can be about. And that is really an important concept to kind of hold on to, because I think it's, at least for me, whether I recognized it or not until literally the mirror was kind of put in front of me, that's what this business is about. Thoughts on the business. It's not about graphics, okay? What we do, it's a business about business, all right? That's really important. The way that we survive is by understanding businesses, understanding their goals and objectives, and helping them communicate, okay? So the more we understand about business, the more successful we're ultimately going to be. The graphic side of it is how we express ourselves. It's how we express brands, for how we build brands. But you've got to understand the business. Because Otherwise, we're just designing for nothing. So really important. Learn to listen. Learn to listen to what's being said. Really important. Listen to what's implied. And most importantly, learn to listen to what's not being said when you're engaging with somebody, a client or not. And it's a lot of times it's the subtleties of what's implied. It's the subtleties of what is not said that are going to give you the clues and the road signs for where you may need to be going and where you may need to explore. So listening is really important. I had another colleague just recently tell me this. I was like, God, I wish I'd have known this 30 years ago. He said, I quote, sort of, when you're thinking about engaging with clients and having conversations, that idea of listening and then having a voice, ask yourself, if you're gonna ask a question, ask an intelligent question. And that prompted this conversation about, ask yourself, does this need to be said? You know, is what I'm thinking about saying really need to be said? Then ask yourself, does it really need to be said right now? And then, does it really need to be said right now by me? And I like, when he told me this, I'm like, you can apply that across your entire life, but it's really important when engaging with clients, because what you want to do is get them in the conversation. You want that dialogue to take place. You want to understand, hear their perspective, get them to talk. Voice is also critical for what I'll characterize as sort of the intelligent defense of your work. You need to be able to talk about what you do. When I was a young designer, it was just blah, 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 you know, it was worthless. I could design, but I couldn't talk about it. Getting voice is critical. It's critical to success. Creative management. I've been fortunate enough to have an opportunity to work with a lot of, like I said, a lot of really bright people and a lot of great creatives. And at some point, you sort of matriculate out of being a designer into design management, and then when you start making those moves, you have to learn how to manage other creatives. And I've always subscribed to the theory of real soft hands. Nobody likes to be pushed or pulled. They need to be guided. And this is a crazy analogy, but it's like if you're going to give someone direction, you want to give them freedom to. If you're taking a carrier pigeon and you're going to turn it free, let it go. If you want it to go south, you don't throw it north, you throw it south. And by throwing it that general direction, you know, you're giving them some guidance, and that's soft-handed guidance. You give them all of the things they need in terms of information or content, but be soft about it. Let them go explore. Understand that creative exploration has to go through several sets of phases, okay? You have to kind of go down the expected paths. You got to, even to this day, if you're designing something, for me, I've got to kind of push through the expected to get to the unexpected, to get to what we like to characterize at Sun & Sons as those transformational epiphanies, those really big ideas, those just key moments that go, okay, this is going to take a communication and move it to the next level. So just understand you got to kind of go down that path. The other thing that particularly young designers tend to do, not young designers, everybody does it, you go down what I characterize as the rabbit hole. You start down on an idea and you keep drilling and you keep drilling and you keep drilling down further and further and further. And you're trying to understand and get to a solution, and it leads you someplace else, and it leads you someplace else. And for young designers particularly, it's a real easy place to get lost. It's all of a sudden you start to lose sight of where you should be going. You lose sight of the core objectives. You know, that's why a creative brief is so important. As a creative manager, you need to be able to pull people back out of that hole. Understand when they're going there, give them enough room in that hole to explore, but be able to pull them back out and kind of retoss the pigeon, if you will. All right. So soft-handed creative management, that's the things I'm looking for. Center for Design Study. So I start this nonprofit. And the idea, it was a really good idea. But the idea for the Center for Design Study was to, Christ, I'm so impulsive. I buy this building, I renovate this building, and I have this grandiose idea that we're going to be able to cash flow this thing out of the center, right? Yeah, that didn't happen. But the idea behind the center was we're going to be a voice of advocacy for design, and design across all disciplines. And we want to create awareness for what design is about. We wanted to create an understanding and create a path for that understanding that with applied design, there is an inherent value creation that takes place. And so that's fundamentally what the center was about. Who's familiar with the CBS cafeteria wall? Yeah, okay. Really cool wall, designed by a couple of design legends. A guy named Lou Dorfman out of CBS. Anyway, we acquire this wall, and it has to be renovated, and we use the center as sort of a portal to help the funding for restoration of this wall. So current status of the wall is it's still in New York. It's about a little more than a third of the way renovated. This was, I don't want to do a whole, because I got a whole thing on the wall. I don't want to get into that now. But anyway, the wall is very cool. Designed by Dorsman, all the typography in the wall. It was a 39-foot, 39-foot, 8-foot high wall. Herb Lubalin, great typographer, last century arguably the best, designed all the type for it. When this thing came out and was installed in about 1966, it was remarkable. I remember as being a young design student at the time, it was just an amazing piece of art. Subsequently got torn out. Anyway, we've salvaged the thing. I won't do the whole design story on or where that's at, but we saved the wall. It's not completely restored. Where's Sarah? Sarah Schleining, decorative arts, curator of decorative arts and design at the High. The High's looking at it. We've got a deal sort of in the works for the Culinary Institute of America up in, to put it in their Hyde Park campus, but we're slowly getting the wall restored. I actually brought something that, would you hand me that box right there? Open that box up and bring me a cup. This is pretty cool. Here's a couple of letters from the CBS cafeteria wall. Yeah, just pull that thing open. These are really neat. All right, imagine, that's one of the old letters. The wall, there's a new one in there. You can imagine the wall. These are some of the letter forms from the wall, if I can get my thumb out of the damn thing. So you've got words like spaghetti, that's 4 feet high. It's real. Look it up. Just look up the CBS cafeteria wall, look up Dorsman. It's really neat. Questions, anybody? Sure.
There's one back here, note card said mentors written on it, but you didn't speak about it.
Mentors. Yeah, thank you. Mentors. They're really important. Really important. I mean, I literally, they're the people I learned from. They're people I'm working with today. You never stop. Big ones for me. There's a guy, when I first came to Atlanta, there was a guy named Norm Gray and Don Trousdale. Don Trousdale saved my life. If you don't know Don Trousdale, look him up. One of the world-class designers of the 60s and 70s. Other guys, Tom Woods at Creative Services. That's where I learned the business. I learned woodonomics, as we called it, how to price jobs, how to make money in the business. And I prided myself in that. When we had EAI, we were, without question, the high-price shop, and we pushed that position. And that was in part due to Wood. John Iwata at IBM. We were partners, collaborators, smartest guy I know, hands down. It's really important you have those guys. You have those people that you can have conversations. Matt Rollins, guy I worked with, I hired Matt. Matt was a great mentor of mine. I learned so much from him. Todd Simmons, another guy. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Wade, shit, I learned something yesterday I never knew. No, I mean, it's a mindset about learning. And so just be open to it all. Questions? Oh, client management. Let's go down this rocky road. Yeah, it's always a challenge.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sure. How do you deal with clients who want to be the art director? Most of the time, not long. Just a short answer. I mean, you have to understand, part of client management is understanding the position they're in. Inevitably, they've got somebody they're reporting up to. Inevitably, they've got a set of pressures. Try and understand, get inside their heads, listen to, again, to what's being said, not said. But to get to your answer, soft-handedly, you coach them. You know, at my age, I'm able to, just because I'm long in the tooth, people expect that I know what I'm talking about. Got them fooled there. But try and teach them without being condescending. Try and guide them. You know, it's the best path. If you set an expectation on the front side that there is a cost component to what you do that may perhaps be above market or exponential, you have to be able to validate that. And you can validate it through your experiences, through relationships that you've had, et cetera. So it comes with experience. You can't walk out at 28 or 30 and go, I'm going to command, whatever that fee may be. The managing it when you know the job is going to be 2X and it's X, then you have to start to look at, okay, what's the value proposition that I'm going to glean from, and my company's going to glean from being into the project, from having a successful outcome. If I can take a $200,000 project and do it for $60,000 and I'm going to leverage the shit out of that job, I know I can take that down the street and I'm going to be able to go to an IBM, go to a whoever it may be, and I'm going to be able to leverage the experience of having done that. That's worth a lot. Okay, so that's one of the things you look at. Sometimes you just have to educate people. One of the strongest words, without question, the strongest word in the English language is no. Learn to say no. Learn when to say no. We can't do it. When EAI was up and running, and I mean we were on a pretty heavy roll. There were a lot of big corporations we said no to, and they were absolutely on their back heels. Well, they never stopped calling. They never stopped calling us. So there's a lesson there. People do not like to have someone tell them, no, we're not. No, and it may have been they weren't right for us for our schedule. It may have been they weren't right because we knew they were going to be bad clients. They didn't understand our process. Any number of reasons. But you have to learn when to say no. Sure. Yeah, I hate negotiating. It's really, here's your fee. Here's what it's going to take. We are professionals at what we do. We understand what it's going to take and what's going to be involved in order to get a project produced and get it produced to the levels that are going to be not just a successful outcome, but are going to be an exceptional outcome. Exceed the expectation. It's the mantra, it's Sun and Sons. Every job, let's try and take it to that next level. So that plays into the negotiation. I hate having to get into that. Well, we only have this much. We may give a client a range. We're experiencing it right now. We're going through it with a client right now. We gave them a range. One of the dangers of a range is they tend to glob to the low end and go, that's what we've got to spend. Okay, well then what's the lesson there? price high, you can always come down. You can always come down. You can't go up. Man, once that stake's in the ground, it's there, and they remember it forever. Yeah. How do you keep a perspective on life? Thank you. Okay, yeah. I mean, okay. Deafness comes with age. I got a great story on that too, but a buddy of mine, another mentor, Jay Maisel, who's a great photographer, but it's a great deafness story. Anyway, so how do you not? I mean, you get up every day, you look at things. I mean, it's like being here this morning. God, the energy in the room, the energy outside talking. I love design. I love what it's about. And I don't care whether you're designing a yard, you're designing a suit, you're designing a brand. It's that idea of creation. And it's a journey and there's no end. There's no end to it. So how can you not get up and love getting up every day and going, it's a whole new day. It's a whole new, I'm going to have all these new experiences, and you learn from them, and it's God, we're in the greatest business you could possibly be in. Absolutely the greatest business. And this is important. Always remember, every one of us, inside each of us, the reason that we're in this room, each of us is unique. Each of us is really, really special. We have something to give. We may not know what it is right now. I'm not sure what it is every day, but we have something to bring to the table, something to give. And just remember that about yourself. You're here because you are special, okay? And that's great. That's great, So, I love the business. I love the business of the business. I love the people of the business. I love the shit. The guys I'm working with now, they'll tell you, I sit at my desk and I swear and I mumble and I grumble and I'm absolutely loving it. It's like, it's who I am.
Do you have any advice in this tough economy, being a new designer, how to cope?
Yeah, it's never easy when you're coming out of an academic environment and or you're a 1, 2, 3 year. Boy, it's tough. Doing what you're doing right now is important. Network around, socialize. Look, the economy it's in the crapper, all right? But there's pockets, people are still doing stuff, all right? And there's places that are busy. We're busier than hell. There's places that are really busy. There's work out there. Find your voice. Be confident in who you are and what you do, okay? Get in touch with why you're special. And hopefully, shine a light on that for people. Let them see it. Find lily pads. I characterize them as lily pads. Find a place. I don't care what you're doing. Intern. Work part-time. The first job I had, I begged for the job. They said, absolutely not. I went back, I don't know how many times. I finally said, look, I'll work for you for a month for free. And at the end of the month, if you think I can bring some value, hire me. And they did. They were paying me about $75 a week. Okay. But I was working. That's how I got it. That's how I got my first job. Then some guys came through with a portfolio. I never even knew what a portfolio was. These guys came through. I saw their portfolio, and I started on them. And that took about 9 months to get them to hire me. And all they'd let me do was this is how old I am, empty water bowls and change chemicals in the stat camera. Then I finally got to a point where they let me do mechanicals. Anybody here know what two-coat is? Oh, God, no. Okay. Oh, fuck. Two-coat rubber cement is what you used to put mechanicals together with. You do galleys of type, and you put glue on one side of the galley of type, and you put glue on a board, and then you put them in place, and you glue these two things together, and then you take a photograph of it, and that was a mechanical. That's how you put mechanicals together. Oh, shit. I had two. I swear. They finally let me do mechanicals. I go in there. I've got 2 coat rubber cement all over one arm. I've got it glued to the board. I'm trying to get the thing. And the guy who owns the place comes in, and he's just looking at me like, you are just worthless. That was my second job. So, sorry, I digress. Just talk to as many people as you can. Just let people know you're there. Ask for a critique. God, when people come in and do a portfolio, ask for a critique, because people aren't necessarily going to give you one. Also, ask how much time they have. Be respectful of their time, because it also gives you a sense of, okay, how much time do I really have to tell my story and show my work? So, anyway, that's, yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.